Many of us feel like our faith is our own personal solo journey. But what if I told you that your friends, your community, your small group, even the people who disagree with you, are actually tools that God uses to help with your spiritual growth? We're about to explain how relationships are key to unlock your spiritual growth.
Welcome to the Binmin podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we also believe that everyone should know the next step for making their Christian life more important to them. I'm Pops.
I'm Bob.
And I'm Emma.
Emma, if faith is meant to be personal, why is it that when we live our spiritual life only unto ourselves, do we end up feeling stuck, disconnected, or even weak?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that faith is personal in the sense that it's a personal choice, it's a personal relationship with Jesus. But even when we look at the life of Jesus, it's all about community. Jesus doesn't walk his life alone. And so for us to think that we could is just kind of crazy. We need people. We need our group of friends, our community to come alongside us. There's a lot to unpack in the scriptures. There's a lot to learn about the Lord, and we need other people to help us to see all of the different facets of God. If we're the image of God, we need other image bearers to help us to see more clearly.
Which frankly is not helped by the culture around us that tells us something different. If you know history or live in the West at all, rugged individualism is the name of the game, right? It's me and my thing, paving my way forward. And yet that is just not what the picture that we're called to in our spiritual lives as Christians is. And there's even things in our lives that are sort of a misnomer, right? Even online community. Is that really community? Social media, how socially deep really is that to my life? Is it healthy for me? And frankly, even my own heart makes me go, I just kind of want to do my own thing. So there's obstacles against us that make us want to be individual. But God pushes against that, even from the beginning in Genesis, when he looks at Adam and he goes it's not good that man should be alone, right? And that's not just talking about marriage. It's talking about the fact that we need as humans community.
Let me ask you, has God ever given us a good example of spiritual growth within a community?
No, never.
Okay. Emma, do you want to respond to that? Let me give you a big hint.
I don't like that
it
response.
Rhymes with facts, boo.
Yeah. Don't ask if you already know the answer. Well, yeah, of course there is. There is I think that probably the best place, and Emma, you can take us there, is when God starts the church, right? The New Testament church, and he's displayed community ever since he built humans. But what's the deal with the church and what makes it unique?
Yeah. Oh, man. There's so many things that make it unique. I think you take this group of people that shouldn't belong together, the dynamics of the culture within the church. It was one thing for the Jews to be the Jews. They ethnically were the same, culturally were the same, but the church, you're taking in not only Jew, but also Gentile. So you have all of these different cultures, all of these ethnicities that historically didn't get along, but you're putting in front of them this common ideology and theology of Christ that calls to love one another, and that changes everything.
Which, if I can break it down, you say hey, what were those pieces that were embedded in the church at the beginning? If you want to know how the church was born, read the book of Acts in the New Testament. Acts chapter 2, it says, starting in verse 42, what did this first church gathering, what did they do? And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. So there was instruction, God's revelation. And the fellowship, so real relationships. To the breaking of bread and the prayers. So they had meals together and they prayed together. And awe came upon every soul. There were wonders and signs being done, and all who believed were together and had all things in common. They shared their self, their lives, their possessions, because they were that close. That was the kind of nearness that happens in God's community when his Spirit's there.
Yeah, that blueprint for community in Acts is incredibly powerful. But let's look at ourselves today. What are some reasons why we should be pursuing that kind of community in today's world?
Can I throw the first one out?
Yeah.
I mean, I may have a couple, but one is community changes us. Like it transforms us. So there's that Proverbs verse in Proverbs 27:17 that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man or one woman sharpens another. And like that's true, that friction, that clanging against one another, just as it makes something sharp, like we get sharpened by being in close life with other people. And so like I need to be changed, right? And so that's one reason why like I really need community. You guys want to chime in on other reasons?
Well, I can share with you. It is important because within community, we're all going to face challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And within community, Galatians 6:2 is very clear that we are to bear one another's burdens, to lift one another up.
Yeah. I can think about that even in the life of like our small group that we're a part of as a church, that we've all gone through seasons, sometimes at different points, sometimes at the same time, where we're helping shoulder one another's real heavy things that are happening in life in prayer and love and concern. Like that's huge.
Yeah, and one thing that I love about the further context around that, Galatians 6, is that it actually talks a lot about sin. And that's another part for community of being able to hold each other accountable, to confess regularly to one another. You're supposed to confess to the Lord, but also to each other. And that's a huge part of the Christian walk.
Yeah. And let me throw out one more. I think community is the place where we use our gifts. So like God gives us by his Spirit as Christians spiritual gifts to be used, but we don't just use them for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if it's behind the scenes type of gifts or up front. We do them in relationship. And so that's one reason why we desperately need the local church, so we can be doing the thing that builds one another up until we all look like Jesus.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot. Is that okay?
Bring it. I love being on the spot.
So obviously as a pastor, you deal with a whole host of different personalities. How do you respond, or what kind of advice can you give to someone who says to you, well, I just can't find that kind of community? Or on the flip side, they say, it just feels too risky to pursue that kind of community.
Yeah. So I think first I would acknowledge there is a risk in stepping out into relationship. If you really want to be in real relationship, like you do have to be vulnerable. That's what relationship is going to be based on, that and then trust. But I would push back because I would want to make the claim that I think it's riskier not to be in community, like not to work in a community, right? Like there's just verses that talk about, even in like Proverbs and such, about the risk, the problems of being an isolated person. I think we also know people in our own experiences that we'd say, man, when I isolate, I'm the unhealthiest version of myself. So to make it really easy and to break it down, I would say, try to take one step into a community where you'd actually get to know people's lives and not just like a weekly check-in. So for me and for our church, like we do small groups. So maybe the church that you're in does some sort of group or class environment where you would just have a consistency of going there every week, checking in with people and starting to build relationships where the risk lessens over time. That I think is a good practical entree into trying it out.
Yeah. You know, you've mentioned this before, and I actually found this very helpful. If you want to get to know the church, but you are worried about interacting with people, surprisingly, one of the best ways to do it is become a greeter.
Yeah, well, Dad, I may kick it back to you because I think one way that we express like hospitality and like relationship is by even just using our own home, using our own personal space, our apartment, our house. So like, tell me about that connection between risk and relationships and like hospitality.
I think, especially for someone who might feel vulnerable, might have had some hurt. Let's say they do start to visit a church and maybe the person they're sitting next to, and they say, let's go grab a cup of coffee. You may even feel comfortable at some point as you build relationships, say, come on over. Mm-hmm. Mom, my wife, your mother, right, is wonderful at hospitality. Awesome. She is just so good. People come over, and by the end of the night, they feel loved and fed. It's a gift.
And even if you don't have my mom at your house, you can still have people over and cook up some spaghetti or make a cup of coffee.
Don't bring up her spaghetti, okay? Just leave that alone. So, what do you want viewers to take away from this episode?
Yeah, what's your next step this week? Commit to one thing. So we listed a few different ways to plug into relationship and to plug into community. Maybe you even had another idea, but take one of those and say, I'm just going to commit that I'm showing up every week to church and actually talking, having one conversation with people. I'm going to commit to jumping into a small group. I'm going to commit to inviting someone to coffee. Take one step of what God's already stirring in you and commit to do that this week, because I just believe that God wants to bless your step of reaching out to someone, both to bless you, but also to allow you to be a blessing to them.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Emma. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Binmin podcast. Binmin is a resource ministry dedicated to helping you discover your next step in your Christian life. If you want to know more about our ministry, please visit us at binmin.org. And if this episode was helpful for you, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment for us. Oh, and by the way, when you're at our website at binmin.org, sign up for the newsletter. It'll make Bob feel so much happier. Until next time, God bless.